everyone, and welcome to Tech Talk with Boyum, the podcast where we go through the latest trends and insights in the world of business and technology. I'm your host, Paula De Silva, Chief Marketing Officer here at Boyum IT Solutions. Thanks for tuning into our Logistics Month series, where we explore the future of supply chains, warehouse innovation, and business transformation through technology. Today's episode, which happens to be episode number 5, is about a topic that's becoming, well, I should describe it as, mission critical for many businesses: traceability and compliance, especially for companies operating in highly regulated industries. We even touched a little bit on this last month in our quality podcast. But today we're going to take a completely different perspective on it. And I'm very excited to introduce my guest who's joining me today, my colleague, Sanjeev Varma, who's the Solutions Advisor at Boyum IT Solutions. Now, Sanjeev isn't just a technology expert. He's spent years directly advising manufacturers, distributors, logistics businesses on how to meet complex regulatory demands, optimize their operations, and turn compliance into a competitive edge. Now, he brings first-hand experience from the front lines of industries like pharmaceuticals, chemicals, food production, where traceability isn't just important, it definitely is essential for them to be able to run their businesses. Sanjeev, welcome to Tech Talk. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks, Paula. Thanks for that lovely introduction. It's actually great to be here. I'm also very, very passionate about this topic because I've actually seen firsthand how businesses can shift from simply surviving compliance challenges to using them as a springboard for growth. So yeah, lovely to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, Sanjeev. Well, there was obviously a reason why we asked you. So we want to really dive into that head of yours and gain knowledge from the experience that you've had over the years.
Right.
Having said that, before we get into the nitty-gritty and talk about strategies for these types of businesses, let's take a moment to set the stage.
Right.
Get down to the basics, right? When we say regulated industries, let me share what I believe we're actually talking about here. So I believe that we mean sectors where companies operate under strict government oversight due to the risks that their products can pose to either health, safety, or generally the environment. Now, some examples, if I can share with you, include like pharmaceuticals, life sciences, where obviously drug safety and patient protection demand complete transparency. And then obviously food and beverage equally as important, where contamination risks and expiry management are heavily policed. And then let's keep going down the path of providing more examples. Then we have chemicals and hazardous materials requiring, careful storage, handling, and certainly reporting. Let's not forget medical devices, needing full visibility over manufacturing and usage records. And then another one, aerospace, and automotive, where part traceability can literally save lives. And we all know that these industries are governed by rigorous standards. Now, the standards and the compliance bodies that manage all of this obviously vary depending on where these organizations are situated. FDA, TGA, GMP, ISO, I could go on, right? Yep. And so if I'm hearing myself speak out loud, traceability really isn't a bonus. It's non-negotiable, right? What are your thoughts?
Exactly. No, absolutely. The regulations are also constantly evolving. You must understand that. And companies that embed and invest in strong traceability today are the ones essentially setting themselves up for future resilience and leadership. So, as you said, traceability isn't a bonus, it's a non-negotiable at this point of time.
Let's dig a little deeper, okay?
Yep.
Now, why Why is traceability now moving from a regulatory requirement to a business advantage?
Okay, that's such an important shift nowadays. Traceability used to be seen mainly as a compliance cost for a large amount of people, but now it's becoming a trust currency. So what I mean by that is, in such a hyper-connected world, so there are three, four things that are very important, such as consumers wanting proof of quality and safety, supply chain partners demanding transparency, investors looking at operational risks, your sustainability practices before even spending a dime on your or investing a dime on your company. So businesses with real life or real time traceability aren't just compliant. It makes them a little, it actually makes them stand apart from the crowd. Uh, they are faster to the market, they're more trustworthy, they're more resilient. Trust me, it's a major competitive differentiator.
Mm, I quite like the way that you put that together. That's a powerful way to frame it. Thank
Right.
you. Now, so traceability isn't just protection, it's positioning. And certainly for businesses that don't modernize traceability, what's at stake for them?
Oh, okay. Where do I even start? The stakes are massive, to be honest. So it's not only from one aspect. You have to look at it from a macro lens. So you have your regulatory fines that can pretty much cripple profits. I mean, end of the day, we all work for that bottom line, right? And second would be devastating r- results on your brand trust if you have product recalls on a regular basis. So imagine a brand where you have to constantly keep recalling your products and having no clue of what you're doing. How does it look on a global stage? That's pretty. It's a brand killer for that matter. Then we have market opportunities that you essentially will miss or not be selected if you're not even able to meet with your basic compliance requirements. So there'll be so in this competitive world, one missed opportunity is much more what do you say? It's much more devastating to your company than what it used to be in previous years. So we are all at a day and age where you know there is also a risk of instant public exposure. So what I mean by that is in the age of social media, in the age of this these platforms uh, that can make your traceability failure a global news overnight. You must be very careful in order to maintain uh, that sweet spot and maintain your brand image. So these are some of the things that I've seen that companies lose major contracts or suffer major customer churn. It's simply because they couldn't produce fast, accurate traceability record. That's it. So this is what I feel is at stake.
There's no hiding from it
Yeah,
nowadays, right? The
right,
digital
right.
age. Now, let's take a different view on it and let's go specifically into solutions. Okay, so let's give ourselves a plug here. Let's take this opportunity to
Yep,
reference a couple of
yep,
our own
absolutely.
solutions, right?
Right,
Now,
right.
how does a WMS solution like the Boyum Project WMS product transform traceability from a vulnerability into a strength?
So it's all about embedding intelligence into everyday operations. It's actually quite simple than what it sounds like. So when you have a system like WMS integrated with your ERP, for example, SAP Business One, there are three major transformations that happen. One would be real-time digital traceability. So what do I mean by that is every operation or every movement of your warehousing activity is recorded and scanned instantly. Example, your inbound, external, internal, outbound operations, all of them are captured using the handheld devices. And it's not only the the quantity or the barcode that is scanned, but also information such as batch numbers, expiry dates, storage zones, handling information. All of these are captured and recorded in real time. So essentially, what you're doing is you're creating a living, breathing digital record or an audit trail that you can access instantly at any time, any point of time. That is the first advantage. The second is that we are embedding compliance controls. So what I mean by that is, again, uh, in layman terms, instead of relying on spreadsheets or on the user's memory, what we can do is we can enforce compliance rules using WMS. Some of the examples would be, okay, let's take goods that are expired or that have an expiry date. So we must set a control, or the system must create a control where if the user accidentally chooses it, system would block them from delivering it, right? When it comes to handling hazardous goods, only trained staff should be able to access that. So again, we provide a validation or a control over who can actually access those particular goods in certain locations. And when it comes to pharma, so there is a huge emphasis on the locations that you store goods. So there are certain vials that needs to be deep frozen. There are certain vials that should be kept in a cool place. There are certain vials that can be kept in an storage location and like in a normal room temperature. So system must identify and inform the user. So user must be able to take informed decision based on the system uh, guiding them, right? So what happens essentially, so all of these points when they come up practical or operational, your compliance become operationalized and it's simply not an afterthought. And finally, the third point would be predictive compliance management. So again, predictive compliance management is nothing but it's simply tracking or predicting what could happen rather than tracking what happened. So it's something like a root cause elimination. So wherever before the problem arises, we could identify the problem and give it a solution. Some of the examples again to elaborate, yeah, one of the things would be spotting stock which are close to expiration date. So if you could say, okay, I have two batches. One is close to expiry, the other one has a long period. Instead of actually selecting the one which has a long expiry and giving to the customer, you could spot the one and system, or rather system would suggest you the one which you need to take on in a first expiry, first expiry in, first expiry out uh, manner. So it's called FEFO. So that is something which we can do. Some of the other things would be, oh yeah, detecting supplier quality issues early on. So early on in the purchase process, if you are able to understand and identify that there is a supplier problem, or for that matter, the quality of the goods are not up to standards, we can take quick remedy and not disrupt the entire production or the supply chain process to a level where you need to, go back to your customer and say, no, this is not possible to deliver at this point of time. So uh, this turns traceability into a strategic foresight and not just reactive reporting.
You do know your
Way
stuff,
of
don't you,
working
Sanjeev?
rather.
Sorry, I cut you
Yeah.
off there. I just got so excited, I had to throw that in there.
No problem. No, it's just that I get excited talking about this, so it just flows naturally. So it's just that, so you don't go into a predictive manner, but sorry, you go not just go into a reactive manner, but you go into a predictive way of working. So I feel that is the best outcome of what we can do.
My takeaway there is certainly turning traceability into strategic foresight. I like that. So that's my takeaway so far from the little chat that we
Right.
have. Thank you. I love that. So not just compliance for today, but certainly establishing the framework and the foundation for control into the future. Okay, safeguarding
Absolutely.
the business. Now, let's look a little bit on real world success. So you've worked closely with many businesses, okay, over the years. And I'm sure you've got many stories to tell. Now, can you share a real world example of transformation that you have been involved in?
Absolutely, I'll be glad to share. And like you said, there are many instances, but let me select one. I think I would go with the pharmaceutical distributor that I'd worked with.
Mm-hmm.
So what they had is a very disconnected paper-based process that could almost take up to 3 to 4 days to trace a single batch recall. Could you believe that, Paula?
Too
It
long.
it could take that much days. So what happens is after implementing Prodimex WMS with SAP Business One, they managed to reduce that. Uh, I wouldn't ask you to take a guess because you couldn't. They could they reduced it to the recall response time under 30 minutes. That's how fast they could do
Impressive.
it.
Mm.
Yep. So and as a byproduct or as a consequence of this, also their picking errors fell say around by 40 to 45%. So you know what that leads to, right? That essentially leads to more customer satisfaction. So
Yeah,
in
yeah.
any single step taken or any single uh, you know step towards the right direction taken directly impacts your customer satisfaction level or the predictability at which you can deliver your goods to your customer. And not only that, there are at least they go through this since it's a pharmaceutical. This one they have their GMP and their compliance audits probably once or twice a year. And then it became far less, sorry, far less stressful because
Mm-hmm.
their data was available to them 24/7 at their fingertips. So this is exactly how uh, you know their company or their organization accessed up or it opened an access to a larger newer customer base who would require strict compliance certifications. So it's not only the smoothness of your internal processes, but it's also a business opportunity that opens or a gateway to new business opportunity that would lead to a far more a successful or a profitable organization.
I know you can't mention names here, but actually offline, I'm going to have to hit you up for this one. It sounds like a great success story. Thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing that. Now, where to start? What should be the first steps? So, for our listeners who know that they need to evolve but feel quite overwhelmed, okay, because it can be, what's the best first move that you would suggest?
So my best and biggest advice would be start simple but strategic. And what does that mean?
Mm,
There are a list of points or list of checkboxes that you need to address before getting into a software or an ERP or whatever it is. So first you need to identify where we are relying on manual work for compliance today. That would be the first question. The second question you need to ask is how quickly could we perform a full traceability report if we asked at this point of time? Like how fast can your team if you take a batch and ask them to prepare a traceability report, how fast could they achieve it? And what are the most urgent compliances or customer demands that we are struggling to meet? So is it at the QC level? Is it at the traceability level? What is the number one priority thing that we are at this point struggling to meet? If so, these then considering these points, you need to focus on digitizing the highest risk areas first. Like, for example, it could be goods receiving and batch tracking. So batch tracing and batch tracking, or for that matter, your internal transfers, your picking, it can be any of these things. And that is the first point that you need to digitize. And always, and the thumb rule is to always prioritize on solutions that integrate directly with your ERP. I'll tell you because disconnected systems are actually where the traceability failures hide. They're the true reasons or the true killers of traceability. So if you have these points in mind, and if you come up or you pretty much come up with the answers and then assess a solution, that is the best place that your customers can start.
okay, and then obviously get your contact details, right, and call you to help them.
Of course.
All right,
Right.
Sanjeev, look. We're almost at the end, but I just wanted to ask you your final takeaway for our audience. What is that?
So my final thought would be that compliance is no longer just about avoiding penalties, right?
Mm,
It's your brand value, it's your growth gateway, and it's essentially your operational heartbeat. So I know these are all fancy words, but what do they trace back to, or what do they lead up to? Uh, Businesses that treat traceability as a strategic asset and not a regulatory burden will, one, grow faster, two, build stronger and more loyal customer relationships, three, enter new markets with confidence, and four, they operate with a greater sustainability and resilience. So all of these things, when it comes together, is the actual success of real-time traceability. And it's to quote one of my friends, it's the future you want to lead and not to chase. So
oh, nice.
so get on the train,
Nice.
baby. That's all I can say.
Love that. Okay, great.
Right.
Incredible insights, Sanjeev. Wow, it's been so good spending the last 20 odd minutes or so with you. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to all our listeners for tuning in. If you would like to learn more about Boyum IT solutions and how we could potentially help you future-proof your traceability and compliance, visit our website or reach out to our team. Until then, this has been Tech Talk with Boyum. I'm Paula De Silva, and we will see you next time. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.